Next.
Where are you going, Black Crow? Where are you going, Black Crow? I'm flying out to find me an unfortunate soul. I have a message to deliver to him. I flew an old penny down a well. I watched as it forever fell. It landed in the collection plate of the devil down in hell. I said, that's all you'll ever get from me, sir. Oh, hangman, where do you go? Hangman, now where do you go? I'm following the footsteps of that old Black Crow to find me an unfortunate soul. Blanket down a ditch. Slept in a blanket down a ditch. The night it got inside, it was hot and black as pitch. My clothes, they held nary a stitch. Tell me, fair woman, why you lie? Tell me, fair woman, why you lie? I did no harm to no one, still you testify. I was only looking for some charity. Hangman, now where do you go? Hangman, now where do you go? I'm following the footsteps of that old Black Crow to find me an unfortunate soul. Looking for alas and alack. My message is for you, and the hangman is coming up the track.
Right, well, next up, Bunnies, on our end of January, February New Horizon Showcase, where we are giving you reasons to believe and get excited about rock and roll music by basically giving you a wall of good news every Friday evening. We're going back to Spain now, and someone who we did an interview with about a year ago, and it had a great reaction. Danny Vaughn, do you remember Danny Vaughn, guys? Well, he's got a special new project that's landing in about a month's time, and what we're going to do tonight, in this dark, wintry evening of an end of January, early February, is we're going to give you a teaser. Going over to Spain now. Spain, can you hear us? Houston, this is Houston. Danny.
Yes, yeah, I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, so... So we always imagine Spain. The thing about Spain, we always imagine from England that we're here having builder's tea and you're there swanning around on a hot beach with orange juice. It's quite chilly out there, yeah?
It is a bit, yes. I mean, this is our rainy season, so it's to be expected. We get heavy thunderstorms for January and February, and then we start swanning about with the orange juice.
Yeah. So the grass isn't always greener, at least not 12 months a year. Marvellous.
No, that's true.
Right, so Danny, I really enjoyed our chat last year and the last project you had out. Tell us what you can about the rather exciting news that's landing at the end of February.
Well, it's the first album release for a little project we call Snake Oil and Harmony, which is the confluence of two lead singers and songwriters, myself and Mr. Dan Reed from the Dan Reed Network.
That's a team, isn't it? That's a team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's sort of the idea of putting it together was something I had floating around for several years and had spoken to a number of my compatriots, fellow singers, about doing something where we tour together, play, and kind of tell stories from the road, et cetera, and just couldn't get anyone to viably commit to something. It was always have my people call your people, and all that sort of nonsense. And when I met Dan was Download, 2014. Both Taiketo and Dan Reed Network were on the same stage. And so I was just really wanted to meet him. He's a bit of a legend, and you hear all sorts of things about him, and he's a real unique human being. Yeah. And we got on really, really well. So before we were still standing in the parking lot when I said, "Hey, what do you think about this? Would that be something you'd be interested in?" And he gets out his book, and he looks, and he goes, "I'm free April." So so we started touring with it. We've done 3 tours with it, and at the end of the second tour, people were starting to sort of grumble and say, "Well, why aren't you writing any of your own music?" So now we have. Yeah,
that's really exciting, and it's funny because I can imagine you guys doing music together. I remember when I spoke with Dan again about a year, 15 months ago, and he was talking about the original process he had of recording, of getting fans involved. I just thought this is just a unique guy, and you've got a very unique sound as well. So I can imagine you two. You're either going to be throwing chairs at each other or getting on like a house on fire. Would be my guess.
Yeah, we do get on, and we're quite different, and luckily very accepted. Vive la différence. But the other thing that was important that we really didn't know until the first couple of shows was you can take 2 people that can sing very well and put them on stage together, and they won't necessarily sound well together. Yeah. And we do, and that was part of what cemented the whole thing. It's like actually people are coming out of this going, "Wow, what a sound you guys are just creating, the 2 of you." So it's been very encouraging from the start.
And I guess creatively as well, it's a bit like if you've got this as a project where you both have to be in a slightly different room to do it, because it's about a collaboration. It probably means when you go back to your own solo projects, you've got an extra bit of inspiration from another area.
Absolutely, because he and I, we don't approach songwriting, production. We approach things very differently. Yeah. And that's what's kind of fun about making the album is that there are definitely points on the album where I, as a solo artist, would listen to something we've done and go, "Oh, I wouldn't have done that if he hadn't suggested it." That's not where I normally, I don't go there, and I'm sure he feels the same way about certain things. And that's the beauty of a successful collaboration is you come out of it going, "Yeah, I wouldn't have done that, but that's what this is about, is having things a little different from what you would do in your own little world and still being satisfied with the results."
Yeah. That's great. So the lead single is, correct me if I'm wrong, the lead single is a song called "Last Man Standing." Is that right?
That's correct, yeah. We put the video out a couple days ago, and it's stirring up a lot of nice noise amongst the fans, so I'm happy about that.
We'll make sure we get that on the playlists. It's a really exciting project, so that's good. While I've got you, Dan, and I think when we get maybe to album launch week, we'll maybe have a proper chat with a bit more time, and we'll maybe do a sort of track by track.
Okay.
Before that, though, and the whole point of this New Horizons is about looking forward, and also significantly now, it's a new decade. Now, my take on the teens was it was kind of a meeting place of new ideas and classic bands doing their thing, but it was also a decade when we lost a lot of heroes with Bowie and Mr. Cornell and Tom Petty, and of course only a few weeks ago Neil Peart from Rush. I mean, some tragic premature losses to the community. What's your take looking forward in this new decade? Do you think, with some of the advances we've seen in digital technology and social media, do you think it's a reason to get excited for rock, or do you think there are still some challenges we've all got to get over?
Probably a bit of both. I think there's always something to be excited about musically, because whatever the technology may be, however we may look at it as something that's stunting our growth or whatever, somebody's going to find a clever way of applying it.
Yeah.
That's one thing about humanity. We're incredibly creative, and sometimes, for instance, some of humanity's greatest discoveries came out of people attempting to build weapons for the military, but they found this sidebar that benefits the whole world, So, I think technology and music, they're going to have to be bonded, and it's difficult because, some of us have been doing things a certain way for an awful long time, and it's always hard to learn the new tricks, but you have to.
Yeah. Okay, I think
I'll tell you another thing I find really encouraging. Yeah. There's a couple of my personal heroes, Mel Brooks and Dick Van Dyke, right? Now they're both, if they're not 90 yet, they're around there. Yeah. And what I found out about both those guys is obviously they're still very engaged, they're still very, accomplishmentist, and they're very involved in the technology of their films. They actually, Dick Van Dyke does all this editing on all this top editing equipment, Photoshop and all that, for nothing other than because he enjoys doing it. It's not for a project or anything.
Yeah, that's good.
I think there's a bit of a secret there, remaining engaged regardless of how old you're getting.
Yeah, go with changes. I think that's very wise. Well, look, the last thing I'm going to get a comment from you on, then we're going to let you go because we're going to save something to talk about when the album lands. That's when we get the party poppers out and set the fireworks off. March, as well as an album, March 2020. Snake Oil and Harmony, you got a nice UK tour. The nearest date to us is probably going to be the opening night at the Half Moon in Putney on the 12th of March. But tell us how you're feeling about touring. It's about 15 dates coming up.
Yeah, it's I think probably our longest UK tour thus far. Yeah. So obviously that's exciting. We've been able to sort of expand and grow. But we were both laughing about it because before everything's been fairly loose. Yeah. The way Dan and I play together is not, I play a Taiketo song and he sits there and he's quiet until it's his turn. Yeah. He joins in. And he does whatever he feels like. He learns it a little bit, but over the course of the tour, he'll start adding Dan Reed-isms, and they're wonderful. And I'm invited to do the same thing with his material. Yeah. There's no ego involved. So I'll sing backups to Rainbow Child, and then I'll go listen to the album and go, oh, I just made that up. There's nothing there at all. But so we were just laughing yesterday because we were talking about it, and we start with some dates in Sweden in the very beginning of March. And he's like, we've got to get together and we've got to actually learn songs now.
Yeah. I think it's it's really exciting, and I think as you said yourself, I think the thing that's nice is from where I sit, you're both equal in the sense. You're both respected for being very authentic musicians, but also you're different, and that's what makes it exciting, you two coming together.
I completely agree, and especially when it comes down to the storytelling, because I sometimes find that I think his life I've lived a very interesting, exciting life, and then it just sometimes I think I'm going to keep quiet because he'll just start talking about living in the hills of the Himalayas and talking to the Dalai Lama. I'm like, oh, come on, dude, I can't touch that.
Give me a chance on this one.
Yeah, I'm just born and raised in New York City. I can tell you a few stories, but not those.
Well, look, Danny, we're going to leave it there. We're going to play your new single, and I think what we're going to do in the show is we're going to play a solo track from each of you and Dan as well tonight to celebrate this. We'll put all the links up tonight. It sounds exciting. It sounds inspiring. And hey, look, I think we'll save the big story probably for about another 4 weeks. Get in touch end of February and maybe help you celebrate the album when it comes out on the 28th.
Fantastic. I would love that.
I've been walking this city again. Clothes are getting soaked in the rain. Got to keep my head down, keep my face well out of sight. There's a rental car parked in the street, an iron bar tucked up my sleeve. The sodium light is all that's keeping to bear. I'll be standing in the light of your love. I can't be saved from the shadow of everything that's waiting there.
Absolute super stuff there. Absolute, what you might call a ding-dong. Hashtag discuss. Thanks to Dan Reed there. Great chat. Snake Oil and Harmony. New project, new tour dates coming up this March. We're going to catch up with Danny when the album lands and do a track by track. Really good conversationalist. And although my show here on a Friday here at Meridian Towers and my whole Great Music Stories website, Thang, sounds very American, doesn't it? Twang, marvellous, is all about new bands. I do think we've got to not forget there is a thread through the generations that carries, and for me it's about just good new music, really. Absolutely marvellous. Super stuff there. I'm conscious of time. I'm running wildly behind. Got over carried away. Wasn't feeling too good 5 till 6:30 tonight. I've not been feeling too well today, but I'm just labouring on with a rather self-attentive kind of on poor me Chaffinch, how's your father gone away. Coming up at 7 o'clock in 10 minutes, guys. We might start a few minutes early, in fact. Scarlet Rebels. I went down to Cardiff to speak with Wayne. We had a chat. It's the first of a number of our specials on our Band of the Year. Over 33,000 people voted November last year. It's a Tiddly station, and the website, though, has got a big following, Great Music Stories. And we put these votes up, big following. It wasn't a spam vote. It wasn't lots of people that just listened to the show vote. We've done it over the course of 12 votes over the year. Marvellous, marvellous. Scarlet Rebels, your choice. And we do have a habit, if you look at past winners, the alumni Band of the Year, like the Crows and the Wagons and Virgin Marys, you guys have a knack of picking things well, where it isn't the size of the Facebook fan club that decides who wins. And I think that's objective. It's important. All decided by you. Hour with them. And then at 8 o'clock, straight after, keeping it over the Severn Bridge, Those Damn Crows. Well, we have to see in the second album. It's chart bound with something special, and we are doing a super great music story. It is the Those Damn Crows great music story. 20 interviews I've done with them, July 16 to the present. We got behind them very early. We've been with them every step of the way, proud to do so. We are reliving their story to this landmark album.